Hey, Natsu here. This is going to be part 1 of my new What If series. What if, well, not really new, more redo of what if Deku found the omnitrix. This one will be a lot different. I'm still going to continue the other one when the anime gets there, so don't worry about that, but I'm still starting this one. In this one, Deku still doesn't have a quirk, but does have something else. His intelligence is extremely high for a kid. Think of it as a lot. Basically, imagine him having well, the intelligence of All Might's old friend, Thomas Shield. Basically, think of him of having that from the movie, so able to make something to boost quirks, but a lot, and I truly mean a lot, better because he has it since he's young. So, basically, between him and Shield, if the two were to see it at the same time, well, to be there at the same time, they could have a full-on conversation about stuff that is intelligent pretty easily. Well, once Deku's basically 5 or 6, because before that, he's still intelligent. It's just that people don't really see it as that much, well, interest. Basically, when he's young, he says he wants to have a quirk, like everyone else. Basically hoping his will be strong. When he finally gets there, he gets told that he doesn't have a quirk, making him quite a bit sad. When everything's done, Deku basically hopes for, well, more stuff. When he gets told he doesn't have a quirk, he gets sad because, well, that means he cannot be a hero. Bakugou still bullies him until something happens. Since Deku basically has a great intelligence over his youth, basically in school he advanced a lot faster than normal people, which Bakugou does get annoyed by that, since he is a straight A student. Because of that, they basically give him a lot more crap for basically having, well, the intelligence that he shouldn't have. He's not a hero. Why should he have that, basically? So, people basically tries to bully him more until Bakugou basically gets told by Deku that his quirk is powerful, but there's so much more he could do with it. So many more, well, ways to use it. What do? Bakugou kind of starts trying to learn more from what Deku means by that, which is kind of interesting. Bakugou basically kind of thinks of it as, um, kind of tries to force Deku to tell him, but after a while, he basically sees that Deku is literally just doing that because he wants to. So he basically starts to be a lot less hard on Deku. Still bullying him, but they're more friends. The bullying is a lot more like, you can't be a hero, but at least try to do something nice with your life. So they basically start to get to know basically more, with Deku telling him that if he was able to put more sweat from his body, from his hand, into a single explosion, it could be more powerful. Basically, telling him that gauntlets could be cool. Basically making Bakugou think of those there, instead of him thinking of it while he's older. So now he already has that ready to basically think of that. When they finally get to be older, I would say, around the age of 10, Deku still gets bullied by people, but a lot less than in the original. Because now people see his intelligence a lot higher than any other kid. He's able to explain ways that they could use their quirk to make basically use of them, as well as giving them ideas for equipment they could have to make their quirk a lot better. So he's not as bullied as before, but still a bit. Except that at some point, between the age of 4 and 10, Deku basically they went to look with a specialist directly about physiology to basically see if he could still have a quirk, because the intelligence he has is high. Even for an adult, it would be. Which they basically say that no, it's really not a quirk. He just has that intelligence naturally. Which is pretty impressive in its own right. Some people there basically say that they could say, place it as a quirk, since his intelligence is high enough to be counted as a power itself. Yeah, it's not physically strong or flashy, but it's still pretty good. Which they said Deku that if he has the intelligence to create things, he could probably become a hero anyway, just with equipment in itself. Or at least be able to help others by giving them equipment that go with their quirks. Like he's basically doing with the others, but he's just giving them the idea of it, not the physical item. Which makes Deku want to train. Not a super strong training routine or stuff like that, but basically increasing his physique to a above average human build. He is extremely flexible. He can jump higher than most normal kid and stuff like that, as well as his speed. But he's nowhere near superhuman or quirk level for those. At one point, he goes to, well, a campsite with his mom. Basically, it's the middle of summer. They're just there to have fun, and they actually do have a lot of fun there. The only thing that's basically not fine is that they run, well, during the night. Deku basically gets told by Inko to go get a bit of firewood while she tries to basically start, well, collecting more bigger pieces. Basically, both of them go in the forest. It's basically a place made for that, so there's not really any dangerous animals. And he's basically just told to find small pieces of wood to start the fire, while Inko does the same on another part of the forest. Deku finds a ball in the middle of the forest in a crater. So instead of basically the omnitrix falling on Earth and being changed to go towards Ben, like in the original, Deku just finds the pod directly in the Earth. While the alien that was following it basically is, well, the robot I mean, was sent a bit later. Deku goes down to basically see what it is, and finds a pod which he only thinks is a satellite. With his intelligence, it's pretty easy to think that, yeah, no, something in a crater like this, and it's made of metal, it comes from space, probably something that fell off of a space station, a satellite, or something that was on, well, that was on, well, something that was launched in space by Earth, and that it finally came down. He's just thinking that it must be a piece of technology. But he is intelligent and he is intrigued by that. So he goes closer. What happens when he gets close enough is basically just finding, well, first the bottle opens, which reveals the watch, which now makes him question what the hell that is. Since, yeah, okay, why would someone send a watch in space? Then he thinks, but it does look weird for a watch. And basically start getting closer to it. Reach in with his hand, try and grab it, and the watch latch onto his arm. Once it latched on, Deku basically just tries to remove it, panicking a bit, until he basically just realized that it's not coming off. He just thinks, yeah, well, now it's stuck, and basically just tries to see what it does, because it doesn't have the time on it. He looks at the buttons on the side and just thinks that, oh, those must be for changing time or something. And he presses them, which pops the top open, well, basically lifts it up, and he doesn't think I broke it, he just thinks that he opened it, or activated it. when the symbol change and shows an image, he basically just thinks, what is that? The first one he sees looks weird. It looks like a man with 4 arms. He switches it from one, and it looks like a bat or something with a long tail. He switches it again, and it just looks like a man with some weird hair or something. He hears Inko basically calling for him, and he decides to just close it by pressing it, thinking it's just images. Which activates the watch for the first time. When he does that, it actually makes a big green flash, and he's on fire. Which he reacts like, well, anyone would. He panics. So he panics for a while, still on the crater, and basically after a small amount of time, he realized that it doesn't actually hurt. Then he realized that he's on fire and it doesn't hurt. Then for a couple of seconds he thinks, did I activate my quirk? Until he realized that, wait, the watch. Since he is intelligent, so he would know that, no, I don't have a quirk. I've never had a quirk, and I was told specifically I will never be able to have one. So how would I have one? So Deku basically just starts thinking, and that's when he realized that it's the watch. His body is kind of like the image that he saw. A man of fire. So after a while, Inko basically was still calling him and arrived where Deku was, and just saw a man of fire. She didn't think, oh, it's a monster. She thought it's someone with a quirk, and basically asked if the person saw a young kid around here. Which Deku just said, hi mom. With Inko basically freaking out a bit, saying, what? I'm not your mom. Which Deku then just kind of said, it's me, Izuku. I don't know what happened, but look. I transformed. With Inko basically not even sure if it's true or not. So Deku basically just kind of looks at the symbol on his chest and says, that was on the watch and then he presses it, and he untransforms. With the watch back on his wrist. So no forest fire, nothing like that. With Inko just being surprised. Asking him if he's alright, if it's true, and if he finally activated his quirk, which he says he's not sure. And then shows the watch, saying that he basically found it in the crater right there. And that when he opened it, basically he tries to press the 2 buttons. It doesn't work because the watch is in recharge time, so red. He basically says it's weird because he basically pressed those buttons and the top kind of lifted up. She just said they would go check with a doctor or something later to basically, understand what that is. And Deku basically accepts and they go back to camp. Later, they hear a big crashing sound. It's the robot. He finally landed. Multiple people were at other camping sites, kind of just around there. And basically, everyone that was outside, compared to Izuku and Inko that were inside their tent, basically saw the giant metal thing just crash. So multiple people basically, well, some people went basically and tell them they have to leave. The forest is on fire, basically because the entering of the atmosphere was basically so hot that it was still, hot. So basically multiple trees caught on fire. So they were basically starting to get away, with multiple people coming to basically put out the fire. Since nobody really knew what the hell that was, they weren't really able to do too much when they saw a massive robot come out of nowhere. So what they did was basically call heroes to stop it, while Deku and Inko were running with everyone else back to the cars. When they actually got there is when the robot finally basically was able to get towards them and shoot to try and hurt Deku to get the omnitrix. So someone basically was able to get them out of the way. The explosion still happened. Deku just wasn't sure what was going to happen, and then he basically realized that it was shooting for them. And then he just thinks, wait, the watch, that's what it wants. And basically just tries to reactivate it, which it does because now it's green. And is looking through everything. And he sees one that is weird. The first one that was on, because he basically just opened it and was ready to tap it to activate an alien, even though he doesn't know it's an alien. He basically just activates it and he transforms into Lodestar. Which, basically what Lodestar is an alien made of a stone-like material with a metal head that is able to control magnetism for any types of metal, for anything as long as they do have magnetism. From the cartoon, we know that it can magnetize steel beams, multiple types of metal actually, but we know that some metals are still not magnetic, but Vilgax's robots still are. So he didn't know how to use it, but basically one thing in particular about Lodestar, the alien in itself is pretty strong and pretty hard to kill. Once we literally saw Deku, and Ben get fully destroyed by it. Well, by a ship exploding. Every single small piece is basically just kind of reattached together to reform Ben. So, when the alien basically shoots at Deku and he explodes, everyone basically reacts, well, like anyone would, but mostly Inko. Basically being afraid because, well, her son literally got blew up. What did happen? Whoa. What happened was that um, everyone basically got ready, well, was already trying to flee, but when that happened, Deku basically started getting away, with everyone just trying to basically see if he would have survived. Everyone already knew that, yeah, no, he would not survive anything like that. So, what do? They try to flee. While that was happening, Deku was reforming. And that's when he noticed that he was making a lot of magnetism. And he finally thought that must be the power of this guy. So, what Deku did was finally get to look at the robot and was just like, if I can use magnetism, I'm going to attack it with it. And basically started thought, okay, can I shoot it? And basically was able to. He pointed it directly towards the robot, and then towards practically everything else. So, after that happened, Deku basically just tried to... well, actually, no. People saw how Deku was actually getting towards them. Wait, no. Deku magnetized the robot and then magnetized every cars and stuff like that. And then everyone basically just kind of sees every piece of metal around go straight towards the robot. When they see that happening, the robot just starts getting pushed, and then they see where it comes from. Inko sees what Deku transforms into, as well as everyone who saw him transform. They just realize that he is still alive, and all of them started cheering because, well, Deku's literally starting to just fight it. Some heroes were starting to arrive by that point, basically because when the heroes were called, he wasn't just there yet. So some people basically got ready to go, and all of them were already kind of there. When the hero arrived, Deku was detransforming, which when he untransformed, the robot was able to just kind of realize one thing. Since they kind of... yeah, sorry about that. When the robot saw that Deku untransformed, what he did was directly go and fight. So, since Deku wasn't able to fight anymore, and that the robot was going straight for him. Heroes basically tried to stop the robot, and were kind of able to after a while. Basically, All Might was there. Basically because they said a giant robot was there, so they kind of called in the strongest heroes they could. And All Might was just kind of in the area, so he went. So after basically ending it, multiple people basically went and asked Deku how he did to transform. His quirk was pretty powerful. With Deku basically thinking of it and thinking, yeah, no. If I say that it's a quirk, I might get problems. Wait, no. If I say that it's from this, I might be experimented on. Since his body, well, since the robot in itself wasn't really the biggest concern, if you would say, I've got this piece of technology that allows me to transform into different things. If you were to say that, it could be pretty dangerous for anyone that has that. AKA Deku. So he doesn't say that it actually is the watch. He says that his quirk allows him to transform into different things. Which Inko hears and doesn't really get why he says that at first. Until later when Deku will explain it to her. But still. So, All Might basically still goes to tell him that he was able to hold the robot back while they were arriving, so he's a good guy. He's a hero right now. Which made Deku quite happy from hearing that, and from All Might nonetheless. All Might saw the piece, the watch, and asked him what that was, and Deku just said that it's what allows him to basically fully control his quirk. Without it, he kind of doesn't work well. So All Might tells him, I know someone that could try to upgrade it for you, Talking about his old friend Thomas Shield. And says that, and asked directly to Inko if he could have their number, so that when he is able to talk with Shield about it, he can call them for if something happens. So for now, this is where it ends. Deku stand, he got the watch and he's going back home. All Might wants to ask Shield directly if he could try and look at the watch to see if he can upgrade it to help the kid control his quirk, quote unquote. Basically, he didn't say Thomas Shield directly to them, he just said that he knew someone that is pretty good with technology. So yeah, hope you liked it. If you have any question about this one, leave it in the comment section. Multiple things will change from my original. Mostly that for the first part. But yeah. So, hope you liked it. Leave a like if you did. Not to. Out.